In this Diablo 4 Season 4 Loot Reborn preview, we're going to be taking a look at everything coming up in the next season of Diablo 4, following Season 3, Season of the Construct. This time around, Blizzard is looking to change a bunch of content, like completely overhauling core game systems on Itemization, Helltides getting a rework, and Dariel joining the fray, the Pit of Artificers, and more. It's also adding the new season theme, the Iron Wolves, but it looks like the seasonal content is taking a step back so that the base game mechanics are fully overhauled. Without further ado, let's check out the patch. Starting off with the changes to itemization, items are going to be changed to simplify the process of identifying upgrades when they drop. Items now drop with less affixes on them, and conditional affixes that only apply to specific situations, e.g. damage against non-elites, will no longer drop. Some examples of affixes that aren't conditional are damage bonuses, intelligence points, summoning damage, core ability points, etc. The values for all of these stats have been buffed to make them feel more powerful. Some people may feel like this dumbs the game down too much, but personally I felt like a lot of conditionals were pretty useless, so not having them in the drop pool is a welcome change. There are also new affix types that can be found on items. Some of these are greater affix, an affix indicated by a star which only appear randomly on ancestral, legendary, and unique items in World Tiers 4. These affixes are 1.5 times stronger than a normal affix, so they are definitely worth looking out for as they have a good amount of extra impact. There are also new tempered stats indicated by an anvil icon. These can be crafted onto non-unique items via blacksmiths using the various tempering manuals which can be found throughout Sanctuary. Some of these affixes are particularly special, such as a chance for Bone Spear to cast twice, so these will be pretty significant for itemization. The upgrade system has been replaced with a Masterwork system that improves all affixes and base damage on a weapon, and on the fourth upgrade massively upgrades one of your equipped affixes. There are 12 Masterwork tiers for an item, so you'll be able to upgrade affixes 3 times for every item. Keep in mind that you can upgrade the same affix all 3 times, so focusing on one affix may be more effective than spreading out the upgrades. If you regret any Masterworking choice you've made, you can reset the Masterwork tier to level it from the ground up again. Another big change to items is the Legendary Aspect system. Instead of extracting aspects from legendary items to be used later on a one-time use, aspects will now be stored in the Codex of Power indefinitely. There will still be rolls on aspects, so you can add rolls to the Codex until you get a max roll, which you can use indefinitely. This is probably my favorite change, since it means I don't have to fill my storage with armor items and legendary aspects that I want to use later, which is simply just convenient. These changes to items also come with a decreased item drop rate from enemies and with the aim of decreasing your time spent sorting loot and increasing time spent in combat. Items that do drop are likely to be more valuable, and materials gained from salvaging and crafting have been adjusted for the decreased drop rate, and the materials needed for anything at the blacksmith have been reduced. This is a fantastic change in my opinion. One of my biggest gripes about these types of games is the amount of worthless loot that you get. Lowering this down and making things more valuable is a fantastic change. World tiers are now more divided, with sacred gear only dropping in World Tier 3 and ancestral items only appearing in World Tier 4. Some uniques can now also drop in World Tier 1, and uber uniques will start dropping when fighting against level 55 plus monsters. The reimagined Helltide is inspired by the well-received Vampiric Blood Harvest from the Season of Blood. As you fight an open chest in the Helltide, you accrue threat based on the difficulty of defeated monsters and the frequency of opening tortured gifts. This threat progresses through 3 levels, which increases enemy spawn frequency and danger. At level 3 of threat, players become hell-marked, triggering a frenzied attack by densely packed monsters followed by a Hellborn, an immensely powerful fallen warrior representing one of the classes from Diablo 4. This cycle resets after the Hellborn is defeated or the player dies. Upon killing a Hellborn, you can acquire the special seasonal elixir, Profane Mind Cage, which temporarily increases the level of Helltide monsters by 10 and enhances Cinder drop rates, although the effects diminish as players approach the level cap. It's worth noting here that Forgotten Souls are no longer a Helltide-only item, as they can now be obtained from Whisper bounties and as rare drops from elites. Another upcoming event for Helltide is the Accursed Ritual, which can be found as a cultist ritual with 3 beheaded cultists. You collect 3 baneful hearts from tortured gifts and fallen Hellborn to initiate the ritual, which begins a swarm of demons and eventually the big bad demon, the Blood Maiden. If you add more hearts to the ritual, you get increased rewards, which is a nice bonus. Next up is the Pit of Artificers, another permanent change to the Diablo 4 world being added to both the Seasonal Realm and Eternal Realm. There are rumors that there are strange varieties of ore deep within the network of dungeons crisscrossing the north of Sanctuary, perfect for crafting exceptionally made armor using secret heroic techniques. However, the horrors that lay in wait for intrepid wanderers seeking to unearth these riches are unspeakably terrible. Once you reach World Tier 4, you unlock a quest to complete a Tier 46 dungeon to unlock the Pit of Artificers. To play the event, you'll need to find rune shards from various activities like Helltides, Legion, and Whisper bounties. Once you have enough, you can go to the Obelisk and Saragar to begin the 10-minute challenge, killing hordes of enemies to spawn a final boss. Once you beat the final boss, you get special materials necessary for masterworking your weapons, and you can proceed to the next tier of the pit. You can get all the way up to tier 200 if you can manage your time well, with higher tiers rewarding you with Stygian stones used for summoning tormented echoes, level 200 variants of summonable bosses found in Diablo 4. If the gameplay structure for Pit of Artificers sounds familiar, that's because it's kind of like the Abattoir of Zur event from the Midwinter Blight, only now as a permanent event. You can enter the pit in groups of up to 4 players, but every time the host or other party members die, your time to kill the hordes is shortened. The first death removes 30 seconds, second death removes 60 seconds, and subsequent deaths will remove 90 seconds. As such, you probably don't want to bring any dead weight with you for the purposes of leveling their characters or anything like that, since you may end up wasting all of your rune shards. The player who spends the rune shards to open the pit earns the lion's share of materials. Only the player who opened the pit has a chance to receive Stygian stones, used for summoning tormented echoes, level 200 variants of the summonable bosses. The further you descend into the levels of the pit, the more frequent these Stygian stones will appear. Going more in depth on the tormented echoes, this event features the return of Andariel and is another piece of permanent content that will be on Eternal and Seasonal realms. She has the same uber-unique drop rate as Duriel and can be found in the Hanged Man's Hall to be summoned for materials from Zur and Beast in Ice. Tormented echoes are level 200 versions of summonable bosses, namely Zur and Andariel. As mentioned before, you'll need Stygian stones from the Pit of Artificers in order to summon them, but they yield great rewards and make it well worth obtaining. Moving on, let's talk about the actual seasonal content of Diablo 4. It looks like, in contrast to Season 3, Blizzard has opted to tone the new seasonal content down in terms of scale in favor of adding huge changes to the base game. This season, you'll be fighting with the Iron Wolves, a band of noble mercenaries set up in Kyrgyzstan who aim to protect the people of Sanctuary. If you work with the Iron Wolves to investigate the mysterious deaths of their members, you will be rewarded with special tempering manuals to add new affixes to your items. So that wraps up all the upcoming content for this season, and as you can tell, Season 4 itself doesn't have a lot of new content in terms of additional things to do, but the base concepts have been completely reworked. I definitely feel like going into Diablo 4 on the official launch of Season 4 will be likely to be playing an entirely different game, with the massive changes to itemization shaking up the stale formula pretty well. It's unfortunate that this season's content is lacking as a bit of a result, but all in all, it's probably a good thing since we can expect more season-specific content in Season 5, and on top of that, having fresh base mechanics should ensure at least some players return to the game to check it out. So what do you guys make of all these changes? Is it music to your ears? I feel like this is really, really important to the game and in terms of its long-term longevity. Itemization in Diablo 4 was arguably one of the worst parts of the game, getting very, very stale, and this should shake it up a little bit and at least make things feel fresh for a little while. I'd love to hear what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below.